So first I want to create the door that I'm going to be animating, and I'm going to do that by creating an empty that's going to act as the door pivot point that we can animate around, and I'll add everything else for the door to it. So first I'll just add an empty into my scene. Game object create empty. Oh, I should open up Zoom it. And I'll call this door pivot. Pivot, as in pivot point. And then this pivot, I'm going to give an icon to it. We're going to the select icon tab up here, just so I can see it in the world. Pick any icon you want. Just know that these bigger ones you can see the name, these smaller ones you can't. That's just so I can see it in the world. I'm going to add a cube to this door pivot to make the actual 3D door. 3D object cube. I was right clicking on door pivot. And I'll just call this door base. I might want to add a door handle or something else, some kind of decoration to it later. And then I can scale this as I see fit. I know 2 is about the height of my player. I could say a door height of about 3.3, 3.4 isn't so crazy. I'll thin it out on the Z. So those are my dimensions for the door base, not for door pivot. Door pivot is still 111. This is for the cube. That is the door base. then what we're going to be animating is the door pivot. We're going to be animating this door swinging open, so we're going to be animating the rotation property. So you can see I have my door pivot selected here. And if I rotate now, my pivot point is right in the center. So turning this door, and it's going to rotate from the center. What we want to do is pick a hinge, meaning an edge of our door that we want to pivot around, and moving our base to that. So if from him walking to this door, I'd expect that door to open outwards there and have the hinge on the left side, I'd have to move the base to be in place. So I've just jumped into orthographic front view. And I'm going to grab my base, my door base, and just move it. So you can see the diamond edge is on that edge there. That's where it's going to pivot around, and I can actually pull it up.
Can you do that again?
Sure. So I'm just grabbing this door here.
Yeah.
And let me maximize. And I'm just shifting it along on the x-axis there.
How do you put that diamond there?
Ah, that's the icon. So on door pivot, so any object we can give an icon to. Select this little drop down here. You can pick a diamond. I could also pick one of the panels, and you can see the name, door pivot, appear on it. But I suppose the diamond would be easier for figuring out where the pivot point is. Send this label. Hey, no worries, man. But yeah, icon, just shift it up here, top corner. You brought the cold in with you.
Fuck, I can see that.
You can't see this? The icons?
No, like the icon in the element.
So I'm applying it to the empty. The empty is door pivot, that's
Yeah.
why.
That's I have that one. I have door base.
Maybe you have them turned off.
Probably. You see, I have my door pivot. Yeah. I have my door base.
Zoom in closer on the door. See if that. I don't see the icon.
Yeah.
Select something else. Up there. I bet it's along the top of the 3D viewport. Some kind of setting for turning them off and on. Is this turned on or off for you?
It's on.
It's on. Okay. Anyway, the next part of this is getting to animate this door. So we have a cube that we've scaled how we want it, and we have a door pivot point that we're going to animate around. So what I'm just doing now is moving my door into position. Door pivot and door base. So the door base is going to sit along that edge there of the pivot. It's going to orbit around there. I'll just pull both of them up so we're at ground level. And yeah, I've made quite a tall door. About 12 feet tall, but that's fine. We're in the land of make-believe. Okay, so once we have our basic door in place, we can go to the animator window and add some animation. So we're going to need two animations. We need an animation of the door just being completely still, an idle animation for the door almost, and we need an animation of the door swinging open so we can transition between two animation states. So the animation in Unity is handled by a state machine usually. So if you have a character that has to transition between animation states, like standing still and running, it would be handled in that state machine. This is going to be pretty similar. This is our standing still of the door, and then it's going to go into its running animation, which is the animation of the door opening and then closing to play it backwards. So, let's open the animation window. Go to Window, Animation, Animation. Here's the animation panel. I'm going to go ahead and dock this just by grabbing it by the top area here and just docking it into the rest of the viewport. What would you call it? The lapel? There we go. So, you'll notice it says to begin animating door pivot, create an animator and an animation clip. The animator is the state machine I was just talking about, and the animation clip refers to any specific animation on any specific object. We select any object in our scene, it'll say to begin animating that object. So, to begin animating cylinder, create animator and animation clip. To begin animating ground, create animator and animation clip. So, we want to animate our door pivot, not our door base. let's just click create to create that animation. An animator. It's going to ask us to save our animation. I'll create a folder for this. This is in our game source, BSC 30924, so the current game project assets. I can make a new folder right here called animation. I'll say door opening for the animation name. And you see we have the name of our clip down here, a record button for when we want to start animating. Press play right now, nothing's going to happen because there's no animation running. But we have 1 second of time to play with down here, 60 frames. And we can expand and make that longer, of course. But 1 second is about all we'll need for this. And down here we can specify what properties we're going to be animating. So as I said, I want to animate the rotation of this door from the pivot. Oh, and I'm rotating from the wrong spot. Again, I'm still rotating from the center. I want to rotate from the pivot point. So I need to make a change up here. From center to pivot. Right up here, change from center to pivot, so I can rotate from that pivot point. Hey, and there we go. That's the rotation I want, the swinging of the door, swinging open. Perfect. And one more time. It's just up here in the top left corner. I change from center to pivot. Let's start animating. I just need to add a property. As I said, it's rotation, so I want to add the property of rotation from transform. And this is the property we're going to be animating. So I want to animate rotation. I want to click that plus right next to rotation. And if I wanted to animate something in door base, I can roll that down and do that as well. So all of the children can be animated from here as well, but I'm just going to animate the top level rotation.
No, that is the
You see now I got 2 keyframes set at the start and end. That's going to record my position or my rotation, but changing between those 2 positions. I'm going to turn on record mode so I can start animating. And now with this mode on, any changes I make will be recorded. So any changes I make to the rotation animated. So I can move forward in time, and any change I make, if I make a rotational change at this point in time, it's going to record that change between those two positions. So there's my animation. At the moment, it's kind of swinging open and swinging closed. Oh, the refresh rate isn't great up here. You can just about see that animation.
You have to go frame? No. You just.
So anywhere I move, I can add. So first, got to move the playhead, this playhead thing, and that's a position in our 1 second in the 60 frames. So you go to the frame, and then you just make the change, and it will record it for you. So I decide to start going nuts, start rotating in very strange ways. It will record all of that as well. Not quite the animation we're looking for.
Is yours actually?
I put it in my meeting as well.
Oh.
You're playing gold. No, don't put it off. Good play. Play. We were never creating anything.
And then if you get to a stage where you've made too many rotations, you made quite a mess of things, we can remove the keyframes you've created just by selecting and deleting.
Oh, that's good because I wanted to go
Select, delete, select, delete, and back to normal. So by default, it's going to place a keyframe at the start or the end, which is just in the same place, which will just let us. So very quick to create a looped animation, things that go back and forth. If I wanted that to swing open and swing closed. I could just put a keyframe right in the middle, and now it's swinging backwards and forwards. I just need to swing.
The diamond shape to the side of the door.
So that's the position of the empty. You don't move the diamond shape, you move the door to the right. So you got two separate objects, yes? I'll show you with another one. So if I create another empty, game object, create empty. I'll move over here. Game object, create empty. I'll call this door 2. I'll give that the diamond shape. Yellow one. Okay, so there's the diamond shape. You can move it around. Yeah. Yes? You get it? Hello? No?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, why? There is only one way to transform. To move. If you can't move correctly.
I don't know.
Because take that out. Move that out of it.
Yep.
I'm sure that the door and the empty are pivot, right? It still it kind of moves in the center, if that makes sense. It doesn't move like from the side.
Yeah. Is that set to pivot or
Mhm.
center?
No, it's a pivot.
Okay.
And when I move it, it's like that.
Oh yeah, but you should be animating the pivot and not
No, I do it too.
If you can animate it, then you can
So I was wondering if you were pressing at the same speed or something.
you already have a
Okay, sure. Right.
I think it's because the pivot is in the center, and the cube should be off to the side. And the pivot should be on the side so it can rotate that way.
This is transform, click it. Rotation.
So it still looks a bit strange.
Yeah.
Your pivot is.
And now, just 1 second. So you move it.
Yeah.
Move it.
Your dividers are all
Yeah.
off as well.
No, you could stick with.
No,
Your
it's
dividers
fine.
off,
Yeah.
I think so. Let's see.
No.
No, I mean,
No, I haven't put it yet because it wasn't doing it very good.
maybe make a different cube for the door.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. So, you leave it. Now you hold it like this. See?
Yeah.
Like, you start here, right? So you say, okay, here I want door to be here. You move it. Here I
Yeah.
want it here. Here I want it here.
So
No,
what
okay.
you're missing is just the tail.
There. When you're there, then you're gonna move it here. Okay. Now you can move it.
It is?
Yeah, you're going to work anyway, but
No. Yeah, let's put in the side position.
Okay.
is it the door or something?
And then we just animate the pivot and not the door
It's the door
itself.
with the cube.
Opening and closing.
Not the
Yeah.
cube, we will change just the cube. But we will
Add
change
this to the animator.
This is-
We just click create. It's saying door pivot. You want to animate it. Create. And give a name to the animation.
We're gonna say door open.
Yeah, now. Now the
And then this is where we start animating. So I feel like they're gonna ask me the same thing. So the animation thing, when I'm gonna get rid of my keyframe. This is all we need from this animation. So our first frame of the animation, the door is closed. Our last frame, the door has swung open.
first,
I'm just gonna rotate on the last frame.
you can move it here. You can be okay.
We can have it swing all the way open, almost all the way open. You can have it just go straight. I'm gonna say about there is just fine. So our animation is literally
Here.
this thing opening. Ah, and it did not record my animation because I did not have the record on.
Okay, the last one.
A lesson for me. Turn on record before you make the animation. And you can see the timeline has gone red. Now I will make that same move. Rotate almost all the way open. There is my animation swinging open. That's all I need for that animation clip, and we'll just make the idle one next, which will be much easier. But yeah, just be aware. Record is on while you're making your changes. And for this animation, we have 2 keyframes. Just a second.
Yeah, so. 16 feet.
go up to the top here in the Callaway Dungeon, and right click on that keypad. Let's say unpack, and then go back to try and make the parent. Hey, now, we select the door moving, should be able to rotate from there. Okay.
My door is not rotating like yours. Look, okay. I put in center.
Don't put it in center, put it on pivot. Okay. And what's the problem?
It doesn't rotate like yours. Look.
Yeah. Well, look where your pivot is. Your pivot's in the center.
Isn't in the center? Yeah. That should be on the right. Yeah.
And what should be on an edge? What's that other yellow band?
Is here.
What is it?
Is the
Oh, that's the pivot.
so now this should be inside the door.
But it's not attached to anything. I'm saying it's on its own. So it's not doing anything.
Okay, so
No.
No.
No, sorry. No, and it's see that's what I have as my door pivot. That is my diamond and that is the parent. You're making it the child of it?
so outside.
Yeah. So you see this cube. Where is this cube?
Here.
Okay, so that cube is named door pivot. And then this game object is the actual pivot. Right. So this door pivot should be a child of this game object. Yes. And now select the game object and rotate, and the door should rotate. So if we animate that.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just, that's the door base, you called it door pivot, you should call it door base, and then that other one should be the pivot.
Okay. So there's our first little piece completed, the animation of the door opening. Next, I'm just going to create another clip. So door opening is done. I'm going to create a new clip. Call it door normal states. So create new clip. Called door closed. I'm just going to add the property of rotation. So go to add property and add rotation. asleep.
You just have a good sleep yesterday?
I had a great sleep.
Well, the
I
winter,
wish I was still sleeping.
I was thinking of that.
Winter.
That's nothing.
winter is hitting hard.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Hard.
Anyway, we don't need to do anything else. That's our door closed animation. It's just so we can transition to the door in its closed state. Don't need to animate it at all. Easy peasy. So next we need to look at our state machine that we created. So in this okay.
So you made two different animations, one for open and one for closing?
One for closed, yeah.
Oh.
So this is it's doing nothing basically, but it's in its closed state. And then inside of the door pivot, in the animation folder, you should see your two animations: door closed, door open. And then the name of your state machine, mine's called door pivot, because that's the name of the object we animated. We can just double click to open that up. That is the state machine. So double click on that and we should see our state machine. Our two animations are existing, floating around. On entry you can see it's transitioning to the state of door opening, that animation state. Entry meaning when we press play. So if I press play right now, we should see this animation play. There it is. Playing continuously and not interacting with me at all. Well, a little bit. So we don't want the door opening to be the default animation state. We want the closed state to be its default state. That's why we created that second animation where it's doing nothing. We want to have a default state where it's just closed. So back in my animator, I'm going to set the default animation state on entry to be door closed. Just right click and select set state machine default state and select door closed as the default state. we also are going to need some way of triggering this animation. We need some parameters to add. So, switch over to parameters. We'll leave layers alone for the moment. Here we can set different parameters, different ways of triggering the animation. They can be bools, they can be triggers, they can be floats, they can be ints. So floats if we're using movement, we're recording the change on the X or Y or Z position of a character. If the character is moving forward on the Z, that means they're running. We would play the running animation. In this case, we just want to trigger an animation to play. So we're going to add a trigger, this little plus up here. I'll call this is open. I'll add another trigger, is closed. Two triggers. Next, I want a way to transition between any of these states. So I'm going to make transitions from the Any State module up here. Just right click, make transition. I'll make it to door open. I'll make another transition from any state. Door closed. If we select either the connecting wire, the transition wire, or the animation block itself, we'll see different properties appear in the inspector. So selecting the animation, we can change things like the speed, the looping, whether it's looping or not. What we want to look at is how we're transitioning, so we want to select the connector. With no model, can I select a model here? Yes, I can. So, you see we have our transition that we made here, and it's warning me the transition needs one condition or an exit time to be valid. So we need to add a condition into this, and the condition of this being triggered will be our triggers up here. So if the door is open, we'll trigger the open animation. If the door is closed, we'll trigger the closed animation. I'll just add to the conditions list here. Transition from any state the door open is open. Transition from any state the door closed will be is closed. So I'll add the transition is closed. You can see the transition between, we have the time, how long it takes to transition between the animation, transition between the door open to door closed. So we don't need to create an animation for closing the door, it's just going to transition in that time between the two. So from any state the door closed, the condition is closed. Any state the door open, the condition is open. Last thing we need is the script to control it. We'll make a very quick script right here. So let's add a new script onto the player. New script. Door opener. In fact, maybe we should take a break and then we'll do the scripting part. It is getting a bit late.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.